We live in an unbelievably high growth area. So since my wife and I moved here in 1986, Lakeland has more than doubled. One of the things we've seen is that our city is de facto 85% unchurched. We realize there's over 200,000 people in our city that have no connection to Christ and no connection to a church. If we planted 30 churches of 500 people that was all converts, we wouldn't even hit 10% of the unchurched number of our city. My wife and I had done over a decade of student ministry. We began to experience just a natural transition of wondering what would happen if we transitioned from student ministry to planting a church. We really began to get a vision that we didn't need to just plant a church, we needed to plant a network of churches. And obviously you can't plant a network of churches without planting the first one. So we launched in January of 1997. As we began to grow quickly, we had always dreamed that we would be a church planting church. So within a matter of succession of years, we just would get an apprentice, put him on my hip for about 18 to 24 months, let a group form around them and send them out. So we've now done that 6 times. If over 200 churches exist in our city that already were reaching church people, who was doing a ministry that was aimed at the unchurched non-Christian?
Basically, the model of our churches is that we don't just want to be about creating one great church. We want to be about helping make the community around us better. We want to see Jesus' lordship brought to bear on every part of life. Trinity really modeled that here in downtown Lakeland, and we are kind of, as church planners, just going out trying to replicate. Tim has been an excellent preacher, teacher, but also he's been a mentor to us as pastors.
They're like brothers to me. And we really do ministry together on a weekly basis. We just think strategically together. We really do have a vision that really goes to the whole county. And that vision would be big enough that it's going to far outlast any of us.
Once a week, the pastors of the 10 churches that are now part of our network here in Polk County all come together. The goal really is friendship, and because ministry is hard and it can be lonely, to be at the different stages of church planting, whether it's 12 years in for me or 20 years in for Tim, or we have some guys that are just a year or 2 into the process, just being able to have all of that feedback for one another has been really, really helpful.
So just to see a group of brothers together, gathering consistently for the impact of the kingdom of God is just really reassuring to me and really humbling in a lot of ways.
As a particular congregation, I think honestly our church is really simple. Not dumb, but simple. Focus on personal relationships with Christ and personal discipline. We focus on basic community because we do believe we're part of a bigger story. We're part of the global part of the mission of the church, but even locally, we're part of a network of churches who share a vision to reach our city. People have asked me a lot of times, why have we stayed in Lakeland so long? And my short answer is it's RTS's fault. Because you had a guest speaker come in for a chapel and it was James Montgomery Boyce. It changed my life. When Dr. Boyce came in, he told the story of his commitment to Philadelphia because of the new need. Hundreds of years ago, it was unheard of that somebody would leave their family for the gospel, the world missionary movement. Now, Dr. Boyce asked this question. So there's 200 men gathered at RTS for chapel, and he asked the question, how many of you live where you were born? And not a single hand went up. He said, now the need is the opposite. Everybody will move anywhere, nobody will stay. He said, this generation now needs people who, for the gospel, will stay because you'd reach your neighbors. And that knowing in a long time, over a rooted mentality of you actually become somebody who's influential in your city just because you stayed.
I think that sense of city-focused, city-loving, over 25 years of ministry here, that there's been a significant impact in all of the different sectors. If Trinity were to go away tomorrow, there would be a significant loss. It would be missed by the city.
It's humbling to think about that if just a little over 20 years ago, we were 10 couples. And God has blessed us in such a way that not only are we one congregation, we're really now 9 congregations. It's a vision. It's to engage your city, be rooted for the long haul, and think about what it means to not just reach churched people or get disaffected church members to switch churches. What does it mean to reach the lost? To people who are dying and are at the threshold of perishing forever. That's the mission. It's reaching the lost.